probably just going to buy books in Jamaica, right?
And then I'll swing it back.
Right. My goal is...
All right, thank you everyone for coming out tonight here. We're in for a little treat. We've got Kэл Вашингтон here. I don't know how many of you know of Cal's work. He's been doing some amazing work that we need to get going on in the future here. We just went through 4 years of everyone learning quite a bit, doing a lot. In the law areas, we haven't seen too many gains. What we're seeing out of Cal is some very great gains. He's going to explain everything today for us. I'm just going to get a little intro where I'm going here. All right, Kэл Вашингтон is an empowerment advocate who has stumbled into knowledge leading to an extraordinary experience within the systems of commerce and justice. As the co-founder of the Empower movement, he is dedicated to sharing his knowledge to help people truly take back their power and hold accountable those involved in agendas causing harm. Kэл explains how men, women worldwide can hold public officials, CEOs, accountable for causing widespread harm with trespassing technology. He has co-authored a new commercial liability action to solve the smart meter problem, as well as the looming 5G rollout, mandatory vaccinations, and geoengineering. Learn how it works, why it works, and how each of us can participate in the greatest transfer of wealth in history. Kэл is a construction contractor, musician, and family man turned law merchant, scholar. Kэл Вашингтон is the co-founder of Empower. He found himself tangled in the legal system and was forced to learn the truth about how things are rather than how things appeared or how things should be. Through his difficult journey, a path emerged. At the end of this path, he found himself on the other side, free of tyranny. This knowledge and experience came at a great cost, but also with a great blessing. Today, Kэл is inspired to share that knowledge and experience with others so that what happened for one can happen for many. Kэл Вашингтон.
Thanks, Kэл. So my name's Kэл. I'm just kind of an ordinary guy. I live in Vancouver, BC. It's the only place in Canada that doesn't have a winter. So that's why I live there. But I did grow up in Prince George. Went to high school there. My mom was born there, so I have family there. So I'm one of 178 people in Vancouver that can drive in snow. The rest of them, absolutely useless. So that's who I am. I grew up in a small city, and then I moved to Vancouver, got married, went to church, and a couple from my church down in New Westminster here. It's just amazing to see them. They live out in sunny Bray there. And then I went through a divorce. I think they were maybe around back then. Is it still on?
I think you turned it off.
Can you click at the bottom?
My thumb? Hello? Okay. Hello?
Just bring him the lined one.
So that divorce, of course, put me. Yeah, this is better. Technology is amazing, isn't it? So that divorce, and I ended up in what we know as of as court. Now, you know, by that time I was in my 40s, and what? Is it?
It's clipping. I would just use that because it keeps on clipping. That means there's. Was there fresh battery put in that?
Hello. There we go. So, I was in my 40s, and I hadn't really been in court before. You know, traffic, a couple of little things, but, you know, I'd been in the building, but I had never really been immersed in it like that before. I never had ongoing cases. It was always in one day and out, you know, that kind of thing. So now I'm immersed in this thing. So I had an idea what court was, and it was, you know, this justice thing. You listen to both sides of something, and then the person at the top, at the front there, the judge, makes a decision that's supposed to be fair for all concerned. That's my understanding of what court was. I don't know where I got that idea. Perry Mason or what, who knows, but that's just, you know, that's what's fed to us. There's a justice system, and they have that, you know, scale balance thing. But when I got in there, that's not what was going on. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. But it wasn't that. And so I resisted. And anybody that resists the status quo, they push. And the more you resist, the harder they push. So I got arrested a few times for failing to, you know, appear or all these things. And it just started to escalate. But I wasn't going to back down from this thing because they were trying to organize my family in a way that I didn't like. I had 5 daughters at the time. And that actually was part of the problem is I had twice as many children as you're supposed to have. You're supposed to have 2.2 children. I got 5. So all their numbers and all the laws are based on 2.2 children. So I didn't fit. There's no way we could have 5 children and have 2 households with the 2 incomes. Not possible. But they have to force this. So somebody's going to have to take the short end of the stick. I wasn't going to do it. So, long story short, I want to, you know, drag this on. I know, you know, I've told the story a million times, but, you know, for those that haven't heard it yet, it is quite, you know, quite extraordinary. I'm an ordinary guy, but I had an extraordinary experience. So I kept pushing. We had lawyers. I had a lawyer at first. The lawyers worked together to basically steal our house. And once they got the house, they just dropped both of us, and we were self-litigants at that point. So I just kept going, trying to figure out what was going on in there. I was asking a lot of questions to the judge, like, why are you saying that? What does that mean? What country? I would even say, what country am I in that you just said that? And when you ask those kind of questions, those are fundamental questions, the judges start to pay attention. So they were paying attention to me because they could see this guy's not backing down. He's asking some pointed questions, fundamental questions. You know, and I ended up with an ERT team at my house, and they mistook my brother for me. He happened to be visiting, and they almost beat him to death. So I went through it. I went through this. That's what I'm saying. It was no joke. So that was a mistake. He ended up getting restitution 7 years later. He had to fight them too, and he didn't give up. And so, long story short, I was asking Wally Opal, who was the Attorney General at the time, I was explaining to him that my brother got beat up, and what's this? Why this aggression? And he told me that the courts have authority to make orders, and the police therefore have the authority to carry out those orders. So I wrote him back, and I said, where did the courts get the authority from? And if you ever thought about that, we all think courts have authority. Why? Where did they get it? We were born into this. What's the fundamental thing that they have where they can get away with giving you an order? You got to do this. You got to pay that. You got to go to jail for 5 days, and you got to do. You got to house arrest. He couldn't answer. And that's what told me a lot. I'm going, okay, so you people are faking. So I started to study. And I studied the country, and I studied what, the history of what happened here. And this country started with a company called the Hudson Bay Company. It was called something else, but that's the colloquial name. And it had the authority to make its own laws and enforce them with courts. Think about it. Walmart can have courts. This is a company. Guy in the black robe sitting at the front, full on court. Nothing has changed, people. That's why he couldn't answer. So think about it. Walmart sends you a piece of paper saying, you've got to come to court because we noticed you haven't shopped here in the last 2 months. And there's fines about that. We have laws about not shopping at Walmart. Yeah, see, you'd all laugh. Canada and British Columbia are the exact same thing. And I know that sounds really harsh, but that's the truth of the matter. You're going to have to deal with that. So, because I started to discover this, I started saying this stuff in court. And then the judges were getting really nervous. And one thing led to another. I started studying, with different gurus and different teachers and trying all these things. And some of it worked, some of it didn't. I got arrested a lot. And then I went to a commerce seminar. And I'd already been in for a couple of years doing this, and these cases just kept going on. They couldn't really get a conviction because of the things I was saying, but I didn't know enough to get out of it. It was just this stalemate. We kept just showing up every week. Okay, blah, 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 adjourn, and then it was just a revolving door, but there was no end to it for me. So when I got to the commerce thing, everything that was happening in the past 3 to 4 years was now making sense. I had a different point of view on it. And because I understood a little bit about the country being a corporation, and now I'm learning this thing called law merchant, I went, they're subject to commercial law because it's a corporation. I just didn't know that before. So now I'm going to try this. And again, it was just experimenting. So I learned how to do some commercial instruments, and then I started bonding the cases that I was in. First bond, judge ran out of the room. Now I saw them being nervous, but I'd not seen that before. So I went, okay, well maybe that's a coincidence. So we'll try it again. So I kept trying it on other cases, and then I tried it on other people's cases that I was helping. And so things that would happen would be like, the first, I ended up doing 60 days in jail. And that was not because of, I was convicted of 60 days in jail. It was because they couldn't get jurisdiction. It took them 60 days to get jurisdiction to even start the trial for a one-day trial. Because I just wasn't, not signing, not agreeing, wouldn't answer to my name, nothing. And so they really had a hard time. They tried so many things and then just put me back in jail. So a whole summer I spent in jail for them to try and get through a one-day trial. At the end of that, because now we were fairly adept at these commercial instruments, we were still in the beginning stages, but it was, maybe just turn your ringer on. Yes.
Turn your phone off.
Yeah. So anyway, we were getting quite adept at these. We'd done a few of them, and we'd see some reactions. So once my friends found out I was in jail, it took them about a week because they wouldn't give me a phone call. Like my kids were at home, didn't know where their dad was. I was just arrested at work and held without bail. And so I couldn't even phone out. And there was a lawyer that I had seen in the courthouse because I was in the court a lot. And so I'd seen this guy, but I didn't know who he was. He didn't dress like a lawyer, but he was always with the street people. Like he didn't dress street, but he wasn't, suit and tie. Anyway, he came to see my case, and he came down into the cells and said, I heard your case today, your daughters don't know where you are. Is there something I can do? So I gave them a number to my friend to let them know that I was in jail, and so they got in contact with my kids. Anyway, that same friend was one of the guys I went to the commerce thing, so they put in a promissory note in the habeas corpus to get me out. So I'm probably in at least 10 days by then. And they took the promissory note. They took it out of the file, so they accepted it. But they didn't let me out of jail. So anyway, we knew this was there. We knew they had accepted it. By the time I got to day 60, and my last day there, she found me guilty of driving without insurance. And she gave me a 5-year driving prohibition, like license. And she gave me a $1,200 fine and 59 days credit. 1 day in jail and 59 days credit. And so I went, well, I'm not going to take that 5-year driving prohibition because I'll just end up in this cycle, back in jail, back in jail, back in jail. So I told her, I said, I'm not accepting the 5-year driving prohibition. I said, it's going to cause me harm. She goes, okay, we'll drop that. Prosecutor looked like, I just made a deal with her because it's just commerce. And she knew it. She knew what I knew, that I had some idea of what was going on. And so I said, on the 59 days credit you gave me, there was a promissory note put in for my incarceration. She goes, what? I said, there was a promissory note put in for my incarceration. She goes, what? I said, and everything has to be done in threes. And I started, there was a promissory note. I just stayed calm. I'm not going to yell or like, I know the game, right? So I just, there was a promissory note put in. She goes, okay. Where was it put? I said, with the clerk, okay. So I said, the 59 days credit that you just gave me, credit is a commercial term, meaning something is coming to me. I'm credited with something. And it's all on paper. So I said, the 59 days credit has to equal the promissory note that was put in. She goes, okay, how much was the promissory note? I said, $300 million. That's the reaction that was from behind me. I'm looking at her, but I could hear all the lawyers and all the court staff. They were all interested in this case, right? So I could hear them all. Whoa. So anyway, I walked out of there, them owing me $300 million. Now, how do you collect? So we tried a couple of things. They ignored those, like they ignore a lot of things. And then I went to another seminar in New York, and we came back from that. And we had some new templates, new information, new stuff to look at. It was all American, but we just modified it for Canada and looked up every word so we really understood it. And it gave us a deeper understanding of commerce, even admiralty, but in particular law merchant. So we did this document. It took us about 4 to 5 months. It took a long time to get it done. And I went to actually two of us, we went to the U.S. consulate to get it notarized because I'm a dual citizen. So the consular notarized our document. We sent it in on a Thursday, and on Monday in the newspaper, in the province newspaper, which some of you know what that is, it said the province lost $300 million in 1 day, which is the exact amount we were looking for. Another coincidence. By this time, we're at coincidence 15. Yeah, they stopped being coincidences at that point. So, and it caused a panic. They were actually the legislature in Victoria was on vacation. This happened in January. I put it in on like January 30th, and then on February 2nd or something, they had this on the front page of the newspaper, and it was on the talk radio shows and all. They're talking about this $300 million they all lost. Nobody knows what it is. Like nobody's saying what it is. Like, how did you guys lose $300 million? Can we go to commercial? Literally. And then they would put commercials on and then change the subject. We were listening to this because we know what it is. We suspect strongly what it is. And so they just kept dodging and dodging and dodging. So they had to bring the legislature back off of the holidays. So everybody, if you were in Hawaii or whatever, get on a plane, get back here, because we had to vote to put, so they could go into a deficit in order to cover this thing. Because they had passed a law, they weren't going to operate in deficit at the time. So they had to reverse that. So everybody had to come back. So long story short, they still didn't pay. And then I escalated it to the federal level. Actually, I went from the court to the province and then to the federal level. So I'm escalating and I'm following a biblical principle. You're supposed to go to your brother in private. If you don't get restitution, then you bring 2 witnesses. And if you don't get, then you go to the elders. You escalate. Don't jump to the strongest thing that you can do. You always move in that way, and that keeps you in honor. If you follow biblical principles, it seems like you're following commercial principles. One is mirroring the other. That's another thing that I found. So there's something about the Bible, and there's something about this commerce. One is copying the other. They're just talking about it in different terms. So the word sin in the original language can be translated as debts. So it's the same thing. Redemption is a spiritual term, but it's also a commercial term, and there's a lot of this. So one is definitely copying the other, and even Yeshua said, you can follow God or follow mammon, which is the money thing. So it's that. So as I was learning commerce, it was always reflecting my Bible knowledge. So anyway, we escalated to the federal level, and then the clerk of the Privy Council stepped down when he got his final notice. This man had been the director of the Bank of Canada, and he'd been a director at the Bank of International Settlements. He was a serious player. This is a guy who's had audience with the Queen, audience with Rothschilds, that kind of thing, if you understand who those people are. He was at that kind of level. We were shocked when he stepped down. And then we saw that in the Globe and Mail and Maclean's magazine. They cleaned all this up, by the way. Like, you can't find this stuff anymore. But when it came out, I think Maclean said, it would have to be something very vicious for a man as connected and savvy as Kevin Lynch to step down with no notice. And they said he did a press conference in the morning. He didn't mention anything about retiring. The mail came at about 10:30, 11 o'clock, so we were tracking it. Just after noon, he grabbed his pencils and walked out the door. And so we went, okay, we are definitely onto something, because that guy knows more than we do about high finance. And if he's running, this is real. So long story short, long story longer, I kept learning more, and I was helping other people with their cases. And I would have experiences like, I'd go to the courthouse to watch somebody else's case, an incarcerated guy. And, I was working in the morning. I thought, well, I'll go see if they haven't called the case. Maybe they call it in the afternoon. And the freebie lawyer comes running up to the front door. Where were you this morning? I'm like, I'm not summoned to be here. I'm not obligated to be here. Well, we couldn't call the case unless you were here. What? I'm trying to act not surprised, but I'm like, what is this? That doesn't make any sense, except I was bonding the cases. And so we kept having these experiences of the judges acting really strangely and almost putting on a red carpet for me, and I have nothing to do with the case. I'm not representing anybody. They want me in the room. So I go, well, he goes, can you be here this afternoon? I said, yeah. Okay, can we go talk to the judge right now? I said, yeah, okay. So we go up to this courtroom. There's a case running. She sees us at the back door and goes, everybody sit down. I need to talk to that man. Shut down the case. Come forward. Can you be here this afternoon? Yeah. 2 o'clock okay with you? Mm-hmm. Okay. Stand up, continue. Like, where do you see this stuff? So I went from a life of oppression and back of police cars and SWAT team at my house and 60 days in jail to, can I help you? You know, can I make sure everything's okay for your friend? One judge shut down his courtroom so I could meet with the friend in the back. Like, this was just like, who's heard of this? And it was all because the guy's turning around to me. He's in the glass cage. He's turning around and I'm going, and he go, no. Yeah. So the judge goes, you keep turning around with that guy in the back, man in the back. Would it be helpful if you guys could meet? And the prosecutor goes, you can't do that. And the judge went like this, hand up in his face like this. Are you telling me what I can and cannot do in my courtroom? No, Your Honor. Okay. Where's the place where these gentlemen can meet? Oh, they can meet downstairs in the cells. You can talk through the glass. So I go down to the sheriff's office. He stands the case down. Okay, you go downstairs, put them back in the cells. You go down to the sheriff's office, and they'll show you where the lawyers talk to the prisoners. So I go down there, and the sheriffs won't let me go in there. They said, well, give us your phone number, we'll have them call you out. I said, no, I'm not giving you my phone number. That wasn't the deal. The judge told me I could see him. Well, they're not doing it. I said, well, whatever. So we go back in the courtroom. Did these gentlemen get to meet? No, Your Honor, he wouldn't give us his phone number. Okay, they're going to meet in my courtroom. Your Honor, you can't do that. Are you telling me again what I can't do in my courtroom? No, Your Honor. But he might hand him a weapon. Sir, do you mind being, if they search you, to make sure you don't hand him a weapon? No problem. Okay, everybody out. Sheriff, you search that man. They sit in the back. Sheriff, I want you at the front. I don't want you listening to them. Lock the door. They can have my courtroom as long as they want. So this is the type of thing that I discovered. That there's a jurisdiction and a thing operating, and the Bible calls it Babylon. And once you understand this and know how to operate it in a bit, the system starts to back away from you. They really pay attention because there's liability. It's all about money to them. And I'm not a money person, but I was using their money system to make the courts pay attention, and they did. You know, to the point where they butt out of my life completely. So I went from a life, 7, 8 years of oppression, looking over my shoulder, to they get out of my way. And it's been like that for quite a while now. So moving forward, I just carried on with my life. They were leaving me alone. I was leaving them alone. That's all I wanted. When I first got in there, don't tell me how I'm going to have my family. Don't tell me what to do. And I got what I wanted. I accomplished it. I got free from the system. Completely. So I was just carrying on my life. Then a friend of mine made a movie, and he met me around the time of the $300 million when it was in the newspaper. And so we became friends for a few years, and he made a movie about smart meters. And he won awards and everything, and really good movie, Take Back Your Power. And then he called me up one time, he says, Cal, the movie's really good, people really enjoy it, it's won awards, doing really well with it. But people are coming out of the theater despondent and we're all going to die because of these smart meters. So he said, is there something you can do? I said, well, I don't know much about smart meters, but I'll have a look at it. So I looked at what they were doing, and they were using notices, door hangers, ads, messages on your hydro bill, utility bill, etc., etc. So they were selling it. They were getting our agreement. They were putting out offers and getting a tacit agreement. So I understood all this because of I had studied this law merchant thing. So one thing led to another. He says, "Well, can you do a document on this?" So I said, "Yeah, we can deal with this." And so I took the document that had caused all the, newspapers and the guy in Ottawa to step down on the 300 million, and I adapted that to the smart meter issue. And it took a couple months, and I sent it to him, and they all looked at it, and yeah, it's a great document. Can you come down and talk about it? And I'm like, oh, and he's in Seattle, I'm in Vancouver. I said, no, it's not I'm not a public speaker. And I'm still not, as you can tell. And so he convinced me to go down there, and there was about 20, 30 people in there, and they all wanted to do the documents. So they did them, and I helped them with getting notaries and all that stuff. They sent them out, and it was a city-owned utility, City Light in Seattle. And they had 9 city councilors. 3 stepped down immediately when they got the documents. 6 said they were not seeking re-election out of the 9. The mayor stepped down. And then when the new mayor came in, we sent him notice that, okay, you've just inherited the last guy that left, you inherited this document. He stepped down after a month. Then some people in Detroit heard about it, so we're flying off to Detroit. The same thing happened there. And people were stepping down all the way up to, the Attorney General didn't step down, but they forced the commission to relook at the smart meters. And a few lawyers stepped down. So we had the same thing happen in Detroit. And so now we have this thing that just kind of came up. We didn't plan any of this. And then we ended up in Kelowna, actually. And so a movement kind of started happening in spite of us. We weren't trying to make this happen. It was just happening. So, more and more people started to hear about it, and we were sending the documents out, and we had a little bit of an online presence. Then I went on the Dr. Nicola show. I did an interview and started talking about this. Within days, we had like thousands of people. And we had no infrastructure. We were not prepared for this at all. So I'm answering emails, 7-8 hours every day after work. And if I didn't, they just pile up. So I had to keep putting that much time in, mostly asking the same question over and over. So long story longer, we realized, okay, there's something to this. This has the chance of turning into something massive. So we're going to have some automation and some systems. So that took way long, and we just finally got an automated system up, and we opened a year ago this past September. So we've been open just over a year. And we had probably about 200 people do it since January, and we've had about 20 people step down. And some of them are notable. So we've had 2 premiers in Australia, and notable in the United States was Rochelle Walensky. She was the head of the CDC. And if you were around during COVID, she's one of the big ones. And if you look at you go back and look at any of the articles regarding that, because just a few months ago. Reason for leaving? Just time to go. Same thing with the guy in Australia. 15 minutes notice. Why are you leaving? I'm tired. So it's working, and we're in the middle of a wave now. We started a wave on the 25th. We've had about, Erica's might have to correct me, but we probably had close to 700 people join in the last month. And so we're probably expecting to have about 500 people go through sending the documents out in November. And judging on the percentage of step down from 200 to 20, we're probably going to have 50 people in that range step down worldwide. So we've had people step down in Denmark, all across Canada, nothing in BC yet, but Quebec and Ontario and Manitoba. We've got 3 or 4 or 5 in the States and Australia. I can't think of what else. So that's what we're doing. It's all based on this thing called law merchant. And law merchant is a jurisdiction that has been here since the early Babylon, like Hammurabi time. And that's why it's called Babylon in the Bible. It's like a clue to, figure this out. So I put a lot of clues together using the Bible and about how things work in the world. And so this law merchant thing is running still in the background. It's not taught at law school, so every time you say law merchant to a lawyer, they go, it doesn't exist. I didn't learn that in law school. The problem with law school, and nothing against lawyers, they assume they're getting all the information when they go to law school. But I can tell you this, the law school is owned by somebody, and that whoever owns that decides what the curriculum is. And if you start to look at who owns all the law schools, you'll see it's the same families start to pop up. The ones that own the banks, the ones that have all the money. It's a controlled system. But it does operate with rules. And because we don't understand those rules, or even know they exist, we end up losing all the time. And that's what I learned, in those first few years. I kept losing, but I had the better arguments. I looked up statutes. I did all that stuff. But I kept losing because I wasn't operating in the correct jurisdiction. So if for those that understand what I'm saying, learn law merchant, look it up. We have a lot of stuff on our site. But once you understand this, the light bulbs will go off for you, and you'll start to connect these dots, these weird dots. Another thing is that Canada, in my strong opinion, is operating under the Hudson Bay Charter, still from 1670. And that's why Trudeau, because everybody's going, you can't pass the Emergency Act because it's against the Charter. I'm like, the Charter doesn't exist. He knows it, so he's just going, I can pass any law I want. Because that's what it says in the Hudson Bay Charter. Except, in the Hudson Bay Charter, it says you can pass all your laws all you want, but they can't be repugnant to the common law. But if you don't bring that forward, he gets away with it. So that's in our document. And I expect him to be leaving soon. And don't tell me this. This thing with his wife, that happened early in COVID. And now it's a thing? No, you're looking for an excuse to get this. He wants out. So, expect to see that. Same thing with the deputy. Can't remember her name right now. Freelander. I sent to her in January the first document. They went to Davos, and then there was talk of her leaving and joining NATO. I'm like, yeah, there you go. So there's all these coincidences. So what we're saying, or what I'm saying, is there is a jurisdiction that they have to obey for there are various reasons. I don't want to get into all that, but it's a spiritual thing. There's so much going on here that I may talk way over your head, but there are rules. And if any of you watched The Matrix, when Morpheus was teaching Neo about the Matrix, and he said there are rules. Some of them you can bend, some of them you can break. So are you telling me I can dodge bullets? No, Neo. What I'm telling you is when you're ready, you won't have to. And that's I'm telling you, that is more real than you think. Even that agent thing with the woman in the red dress. When somebody pops up, an agent all of a sudden pops up. I've seen this. They're telling us the truth. So, all this in mind, we're going against the 4 agendas. that are weapons, smart meters, 5G, forced vaccinations, and the spraying in the air. So these are all similar in the fact that they, well, number one, they all work together. It's all really one thing. But even separately, they're all being sold to us. We're all agreeing to this. This is how we're getting away with it in front of the Most High God, if you want to put it that way. Because they can say, no, they agree. We told them. But we have to say no in the correct way. And like I said, that there's that biblical principle on the way to court, settle with your brother. So you have to be settling. These are principles that you, unless you studied the Bible or studied law merchant, you're going to miss them. You're going to argue. You're going to petition, and words like petition, application, supplication are all asking in a way, or begging in some ways. And if you ask, the answer can be no. Think about it. You can't be asking. You have to be either conditionally accepting in a contract, or if you have the contractual right already, then you have to be demanding. And it sounds rude to demand, that we've been taught, no, you don't demand, that's rude. But if you don't demand, they don't have to listen to you. The answer is no. Oh, you're asking me? In other words, I'm above you, otherwise why are you asking me for it? So I have the right to grant it to you. And I'm going, no, not going to do it. So we have to start rethinking how we approach the issues in the world. You don't want to be asking. You don't want to be petitioning. You can petition God and ask of God, but don't ask them. You're putting them into that position, which is what they want. You have to be demanding them based on your position or your claim. And or if you haven't established it yet, the way to establish it is to conditionally accept. So what we're doing with all those 4 agendas is we're going, okay, we'll take your meter, we'll take your vaccine, we'll take your spraying in the air, and we'll take your 5G. On the condition, anybody that's bought a house, you always have subjects or conditions on it. On the condition that you can prove it's safe. Now, I'm not arguing. I'm not saying it's unsafe. I mean, I am in there, but what I've done is ping-ponged it to them where they have to take the onus to prove it is safe, not me prove it's unsafe. And that's another thing we do, which is arguing. You don't want to argue. So what we do is, well, go ahead and take your thing, your weapon. Prove it's safe. They can't, because weapons, by definition, are not safe. They're designed to kill, steal, well, not steal, kill and destroy. Either life or property. Yeah, buildings or property. Yeah, exactly. So they can't prove it safe. So that if you can't prove it safe within X amount of time, then I'm going to charge you X amount of dollars per day. It's all, it's just business. Do we have a deal? If you go silent, you will have agreed, because that's what you were just doing to me with the smart meters, the 5G, the vaccinations. So we flip the whole thing back on them, and they now have to perform. If they don't perform, then we are able to charge them a fee. So another thing you want to understand, once we have them in that contract, then we start sending them bills. And everybody's going to go, well, how do you collect the bills? Well, when we tried that with the promissory note, we didn't get cash for it. But we didn't understand, or at least I didn't understand, the full ramifications of that, of how these negotiable instruments work. So according to Acts, and in particular according to Law Merchant, a bill of exchange, I want you to look that up as well, is money. It's how the Rothschilds and the Windsors and the Rockefellers have all amassed this great wealth over generations. You don't become quadrillionaires by working or even investing or anything. No, it's literally they're writing themselves credit notes. Then they learned how to make us write credit notes, and they took them because they're negotiable. So when you went and got a mortgage, you signed a promissory note. They took it right off the desk, put it in their asset side of their ledger, and then went, "Oh, you wanted to borrow $100,000? Oh, I just happened to get a promissory note for that same amount. Look at that right there. Here you go. Now pay me back the $100,000 plus interest." That's how they've done it. And there's nothing illegal about it because it's part of the merchant law from ancient times. Now, I'm not agreeing with this. I'm just telling you how it is. And you have to deal with what is. Another thing I went through was, like I said, I thought the courts were X. Then as I was studying, well, they should be X, according to this act and the Constitution and all common law and all this stuff. That didn't work either. Once I found out what it is, it's a business, now I can deal with it. And it's a business offering court services based on the Hudson Bay Charter here in Canada. But it's the same in the United States. It's literally a business offering court services, and we think it's a court. It has all the trappings, the guy in the black robe and all, it's all legal. Just like Judge Judy is legal. Nobody's going and arresting her. You're impersonating a judge. She's not a judge. She's a TV actor.
Yeah.
And if you want to be in her court, you have to agree to, imagine the contract's that thick. And if you don't agree, you can't be on the show. You can't come in this courtroom. So think of in terms of that. It's a business offering court services. Now, they agreed to her judgments, and she was a judge, so she understands things, and her judgments are actually correct, but that's not a court, and she's not a judge during the TV show. And I'm telling you, the same thing when you walk into the courthouse down, wherever you're, imagine Kelowna or Kamloops, it's the same, it's business, and that guy up there, or the woman up there, is just acting in a certain way. Now they can hear, according to the Hudson Bay Charter, they can hear criminal cases and civil cases, but their basic reason why they're there was to enforce the Hudson Bay Company laws. So if you took a beaver pelt from a native person directly without the Hudson Bay getting their cut, fine. You put your canoe in the water without a license, any river that went into the Hudson Bay, fine, take your canoe. Same thing's happening. We've all registered our cars. That's how they enforce the Motor Vehicle Act. Nothing has changed since 1670, people. So I'll leave you with that, and I'll take some questions.
It'll work now.
Okay.
Anything about the year of Jubilee?
Yeah, the year of Jubilee. We think that we just went through a Shemitah, and that was September 25th when we happened to open,
Yeah.
and then we happened to just launch this next wave, and even all those things are still in play because those are all spiritual things, and they try and disguise it. But you'll notice that the stock market and everything follows these old Hebrew festivals, systems, and all these things are still in operation. They just don't want you to know it. They want you to stay away from the Bible. And I'm telling you, you should read it. And on page 1, their whole thing works on claims, like the Vatican claims to own this and own that, and we got it because of whatever it is. It's a claim. You know the king in England? Why is he the king of England? Does anybody know? Somebody claimed it a long time ago, they just keep passing on. Okay, what if I have a higher claim? Well, we don't want to talk about that. Well, I'll tell you where the highest claim is. Page 1. Genesis 1:26. Something happened during the creation on the sixth day. On day 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, God made this, that, and saw it was good. On day 6, a discussion. Let us make man in our image and in our likeness. And likeness goes to standing, agency, instead of. There's a colon after likeness. And as soon as there's a colon, the next phrase is going to describe what was before the colon. And so when it goes likeness, it says, and give them dominion, not rights, dominion. Dominant position. Strong word, like demand. You see what I'm saying? It sounds, dominions. No, that's our position. We need to understand that. Over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and every living thing that creeps upon the land. There is nothing else in earth. Land, sea, air. Land, air, water, law. Solid, liquid, gas, elements. Page 1. And who was he agreeing with? Because there was a kind of agreement. And then the next verse must have been affirmative, because then God made man in his image and likeness, and gave them dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the air, and every living thing that creeps upon the land. We have the full thing. We have dominion here. We just don't know it. We've been lied to. We've been dumbed down. We've been given false history, and the Bible has been vilified. And so most of you don't want to read it. And I know that. It's not a judgment, it's just how it is. Put this way, who does not have an opinion about the Bible? See that? Who's read it? So there's a bunch of people in here who have an opinion about the Bible, and they're read it. It's like having an opinion about a restaurant you've never eaten at. So you got to wonder, where did that opinion come from? Is it yours? Somebody put it there? How did they do that? And we have a lot of these. So anyway, I'll take some questions now from anybody. Yeah, maybe come up so that, because it's being...
You can try, hand that out.
Hi. You mentioned that you bought at the court. Could you explain exactly what that is and how you did it? Like what that means?
Yeah, it's complicated. So bonds are part of admiralty, but they also were in law merchant. So what a bond is an insurance policy. So a long time ago, they started insuring things. When they started putting things in boats and shipping from one place to another, there were pirates. And then there was licensed pirates, like you were legal to go and steal other people's stuff in boats, and even steal their boat. As long as the king from your country was getting a cut. They were called privateers. So, how do we know what happened to this cargo? It left Italy and it's supposed to be in London and it disappeared. Or the boat showed up with a different crew and a different captain. Like, oh, okay, this is not working. So they had these insurance things. So you had to bond the boat, you had to bond the captain, you had to bond the crew, and you had to bond the cargo. So these bonds come from that, like going back in history. So everything in commerce is bonded. All the judges are bonded, the lawyers are bonded, the clerks are bonded, all the politicians have bonds. That's their insurance in case something happens. We understand it with doctors and malpractice insurance. So if somebody dies, they're not liable, like the insurance company pays. So that's what a bond is. How it's done, it's complicated or like long-winded, but it's based on the, how we did it was based on the Cessna KV trust off my birth certificate. I sent that to U.S. Treasury, who can do the conversions on all that, understand all that, made them my trustee, so I don't have to figure out who's the trustee, who's the grantor, who's the, like, you'll see a lot of that talk if any of you study trust. It's just a rabbit hole that has no bottom, in my opinion. So that's what I did, and so once the U.S. Treasury agreed tacitly, again using tacit agreement, that's, when I say tacit agreement, I don't agree with tacit agreement. I want you to understand that. But it's how the system works, and you have to deal with it as it is. Don't try and... So we established it tacitly, then we write bonds, so I was able to write bonds on court cases. I wrote them on my court cases, and I wrote them on other people's court cases. And then when the judge gets wind of the bond, that's when he ran out of the room. Or that's when I helped my friend, I came into the U.S. courtroom up the stairs, and a guy's running at me like, what, are you here on the, I won't say his name, case? And I'm like, I don't want to answer him because I don't know who this guy is. And I said, well, I don't think I have to answer you. I was like, well, are you here to, I said, well, I'm here to do whatever I can. And the day before, I had gone into the clerk to give notice that I was bonding this case. And the case had already run for, at least he probably appeared on it 10, 12 times. This is how these things go. They just keep adjourning and nothing moves. They just keep making money, Anyway, so they wouldn't accept this. And so I took it back. She took it away for 20 minutes and said, no, we're not. I said, well, it's up to you, but the judge is going to want to know. So I took it back, just a copy of it, the real bonds at the U.S. Treasury. And then this guy runs up at me the next day. And he goes, that stuff that you were in here yesterday with? That's all bunk, I'm like, how do you know? How do you know I was even in here yesterday? So, Miss Clerk, you didn't take it? How does this guy know? Was it between me and you? And then I go into the courtroom, and I see that same guy sitting in the front row. Not across the bar, just in the front row of the gallery. And I sat in the back. I don't know who he is. Judge comes in, she, like I said, probably heard the case 12 times. I'm recusing myself of this case. Because it turns out that the accused lawyer is my husband's partner. I'm like, what? When that guy was there 12 times, you didn't recognize him? You guys don't have Christmas dinner with the partners? Oh, I knew you from somewhere. The last 10 times you were in there, I'm like, I know that guy. Oh, of course, you're my husband's partner. Well, I can't be on this case. All of a sudden. So she leaves. Another guy comes in. I mean, his face is red. He is so mad. Visibly vibrating. Saliva coming out of his mouth. I'm serious. Like, he was mad. Adjourning this case. When he storms out, I'm like, oh. So you guys didn't take the copy of the bond yesterday? What is happening here today? Yeah, so I saw just so much of this. I could sit here all night. Like, it's not one or two things. It's like 30 to 40 of these real strange behaviors, mostly on the part of judges. So that's what a bond is. It's based on the birth certificate and a financial institution that can do the ledger it and do the conversions and or pay out if they have to. Yeah, it's that sounds really simplistic. It's complicated, but that's what it is. Yeah. Any other questions?
I got a quick one.
Yes.
Hello.
curious. I've been burning all my COVID tickets over the last 4 years, and even one where I snuck into Lytton, a little trespassing thing for $1,100. I've been burning them, and they've all disappeared. Why?
Because the ticket is a bill of exchange. This is why bills of exchange, you need to understand. You've been writing bills of exchange and you don't even know it. All of you. The ticket is a bill of exchange. And the bill of exchange is like a check. Most of you, I can see the age group, you understand what a check is. The younger people don't know what checks are. You gotta understand this. It sounds funny, but they're taking checks away. Like, that's not going to be a thing. You won't be able to understand what that is in another generation. When we're all gone, check, what's that? I'm telling you. So a check, a bill of exchange, and a promissory note are very similar instruments. A bill of exchange has to have 4 things on it. Person A owes person B a sum certain, an exact amount, on a date, and it could be the date, like on site, like instant, or it can be post-dated. And then it has to have a signature. It's usually of the drawer. Once you have that, it is money. And I know that's going to be like, but that's how they've done it. So those bills of exchange are money. See this thing here? That's a promissory note. Problem is you can't get anything for it. We use these all the time. We just don't know it. I'm trying to teach you what's going on in a practical way. So the bill of exchange, going back into, we won't go too far back, but just into the Middle Ages, because it's ancient stuff. In the Middle Ages, the merchants, as they started to travel, if you wanted to buy a whole bunch of wool, you would send your squire out or your apprentice to go to the wool guy in Bristol or whatever staple city the wool was all done, because they were all guilds and staple towns. And if you wanted to go to get wool, you went there. If you wanted to get this, you went there. And it was kind of like that. So they would write these promissory notes, which is a credit note. I will pay you X amount of gold for the wool, and I'll pay you in 3 months, 6 months, a year. Like, didn't matter. So they could get the wool, make the jackets, sell them for silver, and then pay the vendor. The vendor, in the meantime, could take that note or that bill and spend it somewhere else. You see?
You're going to have to put that on.
Here. Somebody owes me $10 right here. This is what this is. I give it to him. He gives it to her. Passes all the way on. Nobody comes back to get the $10. Just keep passing it around. Yes, we're all good for it. There's nothing here. This is the same. You know what these are? This is the same as this. Except it's a piece of paper with ink on it, and the ink is organized instead of just scribbled. So the ink is organized, and the organization, this says 20, this says 10, and then the ink is green on this one and purple on this one. This is worth twice as much as this, apparently. Why? Because this says 2 on it, and this says 1 on it, and this is purple, and this is green.
Because somebody said so.
Somebody said so, and we all believe it. So if I can get $20 of stuff from him, okay, it works, yeah, every time. I can go get $20 worth of bread, and it's real. It's not. Or it's not any more real than the bills of exchange that you could write on your own. So as we're doing these bills of exchange on the smart meters and the 5G and et cetera, We are creating these. And there's nothing they can do about it because it's their system. We're creating money. It's just in a form that we don't understand. And it's not readily negotiable amongst the populace because we haven't been taught any of this. But it's real and lawful, like legal. I know it sounds funny. It takes a while to get your head over because we're training opposite of this. Yeah. What's that?
You're gonna have to turn it off again.
The judges mostly know. Lawyers
Turn it
mostly
on when
don't
you're
know.
ready.
And you can press it so you're.
So that they start to run out of the room, yeah.
Yeah. So then you can do that, but we can only learn about it by reading the merchant.
The reason why I'm here is I'm trying to introduce you to this so you start to think in terms of what's really going on here. Because I went through it and I'm here to testify and go, yeah, I did this and this is what happened. They started running and they're still running. Yeah.
Okay, the other thing is, now, the way the system is, very corrupt. All the lawyers, they're in the tank for whoever is pulling their strings, right?
Yeah.
So someone with an authentic case goes to have their case heard, and it goes nowhere, even though legally they should be given what they're asking for. So you can supersede that because nobody is refuting what you're coming up with.
Correct. See, I went through that. I had this. I read statutes every night until 2 o'clock in the morning. I studied and I learned a whole bunch of acts. And I went in there with arguments. And I could see the judge looking at my argument. I could see the look on his face or her face, and they're like,
That one's broken.
"Oh, you can see it." Like their body language. Oh, ruling against you. How do I win in here? And it was because I was arguing. And I didn't learn that until I saw that guy doing the conferences. You can't argue. I'm like, oh, now I get it. They tricked me into arguing instead of agreeing.
So why don't they change it?
Because it's to their advantage for you to lose.
But I mean, why don't they change it so that you lose?
They can't. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Once you get to a certain level, it's like Morpheus said, there are rules you can bend, and there are rules you can break. There are rules they can't get on top of. They can't get above it. That's the key. When I hit law merchant, they were stuck. I was above them. They were subject to that jurisdiction, and they couldn't get above. The only way to get above is to go into spiritual law, biblical law, and they lose there because they're crooks. So they can't win there, right? So that's the key. You got to start at least at law merchant, but if you move into spiritual laws, and in particular the Bible, and the reason why I say Bible, because that guy in England swears an oath. That's the contract. That book. And he didn't want to. Go watch it. I don't really want to do this, this thing, defender of the faith. I want it to be all faiths. But I'm going to follow law. What law? Aren't you the king? Aren't you above law? So there's some law that you're subject to? What's that? Yeah, so all these things, they're subject to something else, and then you've got to operate there in order to get above them. Don't try and argue from underneath. Don't apply. Don't ask. Don't petition, because you're saying, you're above me, can I please have some of my rights? I'm telling you, you don't need rights, you have dominion. There's no rights. I, as the dominant person, grant rights. That's everybody in this room has that. We just don't know it.
So when you learn,
Look up Law Merchant. Read as many treatises as you can. If you join our thing, and I'm not trying to sell anybody anything, But we have a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of talks, and, you know. It's
What's the
150
name of your thing?
What's that?
What's the name of your thing?
Empowermovement.com or .org.
Thank you.
It's $150 for a year to join, so it's like dirt cheap for what you're getting. You get access to all the documents for 3 agendas right now. We're still working on the spraying in the air.
It's Empower.
In
Power.
IN.
Empower.org.
Yeah. So anyway, there's a lot of teachings in there, and I do Q&As every Friday, and we record everything. So there's a ton of stuff, and people are really getting a lot out of it. We get a lot of feedback. You can ask Erica back there; she's one of our board members. But we get a lot of feedback, and then people are using it. I'm not teaching bonds and all that, but you'll get the principles, and people are taking those principles and then getting bills paid. Like all kinds of things are happening for people. So they're starting to come into their understanding who they are.
Their authority.
Their authority and their standing. You know, at least commercially, if not spiritually, from the page 1 of the Bible. But that's where you want to get to, is page 1 of the Bible. When you understand that, there's nothing else. You have the standing. You have the standing because you have the likeness of God. You have the standing of God in here. It's not like we don't supersede the Most High, but in this thing called earth, we have dominion. We have that dominion like He does in heaven. We just been told something else. You're slaves. We're not. We're a dominant species in there, dominant DNA. Yep.
Make a comment to simplify what you've been saying here. There's a maximum law.
Hold that mic up.
Hold the mic up. Hold the mic up to your mouth. Or turn it on.
Oh,
More. You literally have to kiss it.
hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a maximum law that says he who creates owns and controls. Creator created man, man created government, government created the straw man. That's why they convinced us they control us.
Exactly.
So if you understand that piece, you can understand everything you've been saying.
Yes. We've been dumbed down, we've been lied to, basically, and it's time for us to wake up and take our position. And once we take our position, we have the highest claim. Like, what's his name over there in London, you know, with the gold buggy, his mother just died.
The boy.
A year ago.
The boy.
Whatever, he is subject to the Bible. And he didn't want to do it when you watch it. But he did. I am a defender of the faith. I will defend this book. That doesn't mean agree with it. It means defend. Defend is an action word. With military, if I have to, is what it's saying. But they try and pretend like, oh. And when he did the one to the Scottish church, which is within 72 hours of his mom dying, what's the urgency about this Scottish church thing? What? Within 3 days? Everybody stopped what they're doing. 178 people. Twice as many as this. Showed up on short notice. And these weren't just people from Sorrento. Lord Mayor of London, previous prime ministers, bishops, movers and shakers dropped whatever they were doing to be in that room on that Saturday, where he swore an oath to the Presbyterian Church of Scotland.
For what?
Yes. What is it? Why? And why the urgency? And why are all these people in there? And they signed it. Lord Mayor of London, if you don't understand who that is, that's a square mile inside of London. He's running the whole world's money system. That guy is in that room, dropped whatever he was doing. I'm just sort of sitting here doing nothing. I think maybe I'll stroll by. Oh, that was lucky. Look at they're having an oath in here. And they signed it. That oath is key to understanding how this system is able to operate in here. That's the rules. The Bible is the rules. He swore to uphold the government of the Presbyterian Church. What? What is that? So I looked it up. There's a guy doing a little video, he's some kind of, thing on the Presbyterian Church in Scotland. And he says, yeah, when you guys all, and he's talking to other ministers, when you all got ordained, you had to sign something. And some of you didn't know what it was, and some of you did, and some of you didn't necessarily agree. But you signed the Westminster Confession of Faith. I went, there it is, there's the governing document. And when I went deeper, it's actually the secondary document of what governs the Presbyterian Church. The primary document, Bible. Secondary document, Westminster Confession of Faith. The very first section of the Westminster Confession of Faith, the Bible.
So why would all those important people be there?
Because he's signing on behalf of the whole ilk to keep God and the benevolent ones out of here. There's a covenant, it's a contract. We need to break that contract to show they go into default. God never breaks his contracts, even if the other party does. And they know this. So all they got to do is, we're going to follow this Bible. Meanwhile, I don't even want to talk about what they're doing. But there it is. Does anybody has anybody come forward to say that they're breaking the Bible? No, because a whole bunch of you haven't even read it. So where did that opinion come from? Don't read the Bible. It's evil. It's been used to control. It's written by man. There's mistakes. They changed it. All irrelevant. Take whatever it is, even if it has been changed and turned upside down and written backwards or what. Take it for what it is now. Because that's the contract. And if it was a Dr. Seuss book, I'd be telling you, go and tell them about the green eggs and ham.
If that's a contract and it has been changed, haven't they changed it in their favor?
Good question.
Can you repeat it for us
No,
so that
it's
everyone
actually a really good question.
can hear?
Haven't they changed it in their favor? I don't know. Maybe I should read it. I'm not being facetious. I'm just trying to tell you. See, if you actually read it.
That's not my opinion. That's
I know.
just a question.
Yeah, it is a question. So I will tell you, no, it's not in their favor. There's a lot in there that's not in their favor. A
Well,
lot.
why wouldn't they change it to their favor?
They can't.
Didn't they change Romans though to obey God, to obey government?
Pardon me?
Didn't they change Romans to obey God, to obey government?
Obey, yeah, Romans 13, yeah. Yeah. So
Read the full context, it still brings home the point.
the point is, okay, I'll obey the government, but here it says on page 1, I have dominion. So is there a government I'm supposed to obey because of what? What? No, I don't. These things can't be the same. I have dominance. There shouldn't be a government above me. So I don't have to obey anything except this.
I'd probably read the Bible.
Pardon me?
I'd probably read the Bible if you gave a Bible study and pointed out as we read what it really meant. Because when I start to read it, I don't understand it.
On our,
When I go
again,
to church and I get together with a group of ladies trying to decipher it,
I know.
still don't understand
I know.
it. I don't think they do.
Trust me. So I'm not selling anything here. Believe me, and Erica can attest to this. We have a thing I do every second Wednesday on the Bible. I bring out all these things, a whole bunch of gems in the Bible. If you understood it in the correct way, you'd be like, whoa. And we get a lot of that reaction from those teachings. So, because I don't teach it the way that the church taught it. showing you how it pertains to your life in a practical, in a spiritual way, with the real God and the real Yeshua, and what they're really saying, what's really going on here. It's all in that.
Can I ask a question
Yeah.
about practical stuff? So my name is Sylvia and I'm from Vernon, and we're being. While I appreciate the biblical history and perspective that you're giving us, right now we are being hammered at an increasing speed in numerous freedoms. We're losing numerous freedoms, and one of the biggest freedoms is the fact that the government is spending money like crazy, and then they'll just say, oh, well, there's a big debt, so you have to pay more taxes. So I want to find out, how can we separate ourselves, like legally, from this assault on the hard work that my generation has done to try to be independent from the government at a time when they're encouraging people to live off the government, you know.
Yeah, so again, going back to the bills of exchange that we're getting off these 4 weapons, that it is money in their system, legally, lawfully, and even spiritually, because of Revelation 18:6, where it says, take the cup that they've been giving to you, doing what she just described, fill it double and give it back. So what she's really describing is money at the core of what she was saying, if you really boiled all that down. So when we're creating these bills of exchange that the system has to recognize as money, we just have to get it into a form where you can go and separate from the government and start to do commerce amongst ourselves. And with the advent of cryptocurrencies, that's one way that we can actually turn those bills of exchange back into money, give it back to you. Not sell it to you, give it to you. That's our goal. We're not in this to make money at all. Like we're here to do exactly what she just described. We need to have a parallel system, and I'm telling you this, there's no bad thing happening in the world, not one thing that money isn't involved in.
Correct.
We have to
love of money
Yes.
is the root of all.
We have to take the money from them. Otherwise, this will just keep continuing. So the end goal of what we're doing at Empower is creating these bills of exchange, and we're going to literally set up a parallel system.
Stop paying federal taxes.
Yeah. So far, we just crossed $1 billion, and we've been making. That's what about 200 people sending. So our bills of exchange are totaled at that. I want you to understand, this is not some kind of scam where I have the bills or we have the bills. Everybody holds their own bills. It's completely decentralized. We can't control it. Even we can't control it. We did this on purpose. You hold your own bills, we'll record them, but we don't take it like a bank, and then it becomes ours through possession, through exchange. Because these are negotiable instruments. The minute you deliver it, like if I give this guy $20, I just gave him $20. So that's how the bank has done it. And I'll give you an example, because I can see the age group here. When Chargex, anybody remember Chargex?
Yeah, Larry.
When these credit card companies first came out, and you went to the restaurant, what did you do? You handed them the card to the waiter. Exactly. The waiter took it, put it on a machine, put a piece of paper on top of it, and went shh. What went onto the paper was name 1, your name, owes Keg Restaurant, name 2, X amount of dollars, there's a date on there, only thing missing? Signature. And he takes it back to the table, and then you write in the tip, and you signed it. And that became a bill of exchange on the spot. You created money on the spot. You just didn't know it. The restaurant takes that Chargex, it's triplicate. They take their portion, they put it into their deposit with the cash, any cash they got, and their bank account instantly goes up by that amount. They don't send it to the credit card company. That's the illusion we get. They sent it off to ChargeX, and then ChargeX sent the money to the restaurant. No, it's instantaneous. Then ChargeX was informed of this transaction and went, oh, somebody created Go Exchange, and they didn't understand what they were doing. Oh, well, that works out really good for us. And then they charged you the full amount. Plus interest if you've run it past 30 days. This is the scam that's been going on, people. And we've all been participating. You just don't know what I'm trying to teach you. You've been doing this stuff already, just not to your own advantage.
Is that why they want our digital ID, so it's already signed immediately?
Yep.
Yeah.
They're trying to get away from the paper because people like me, I can. It's easy to explain with the paper when it starts to go, tab, what actually happened there. They're trying to get you to not understand this ancient thing, and another generation, they won't. They won't even know what a check is.
So how does that work online then? Because we don't sign anything when we purchase something online in a credit card.
Yeah, but they've got your agreement in some way, so you're still agreeing to this. So they're basically moving it to a digital signature, which is your PIN number or anything like that. So it's like, there it is. Well, they agree.
Even the swipe for your phone.
Yeah, anything.
What's that CVC number then? Is that got anything to do with it?
Speech.
Yeah, again, it's all about making sure that the right person has agreed to this, is not stolen, all that. So, but you're still creating money on the spot. You've got to understand that. And so when I'm telling you you can do it through Empower on these weapons, you're going like, oh, that doesn't sound right. And it doesn't sound right. I get it. Believe me, it's going to take some of you weeks to try and undo the thing that's in your brain. And it's not a judgment. It's just how it is. Like, it took me a long time. So that's why I'm repeating things a lot, so that it kind of goes in. And some of you will wake up right away and go, oh, I see it. Others will take you a while and like, oh, no, I see what's going on. So it's not going to feel right what I'm saying. And I'm not saying it is right. I'm saying it how it is. It's how it works. We have to deal with how it is. And the Bible gives us not only the permission, the instruction to do it. Revelation 18:6. It describes Babylon. It's completely corrupt. So it knows it's corrupt. Completely. And there's about 4 verses on that. Then it says, come out of her. So you don't partake in her sins. Deaths. See? And then the next verse, take the cup she's been giving you. What have they been doing? You've been creating bills of exchange. I just explained what's happening. They've been taking advantage of you. Fill it double. It's a numeric term. Give it back. Make them drink their own stuff. So that's what we're doing.
Question for you.
Yep.
When you're in the court system, you said that you wouldn't acknowledge your name.
Yeah.
So how did that work out? Because I know they try and get you to get into saying your name, and especially in capitals, I guess. So then now you're on the law terms again, under their terms.
Yeah.
Right, versus your terms.
Yeah, so the name game is something I tried early on and it didn't work. And the reason why it didn't work is because I was standing there. That's the long and short of it. When they arrested me, I wasn't standing there. They were forcing me in by gunpoint. Now you've got to establish jurisdiction. I'm not giving it to you. You can't say that I voluntarily showed up here. There's a guy with a gun right beside me. What's your name? I don't know. I said, I have no evidence of a name. What do you mean? Well, there's this lady, I remember from, early on, that they say she's my mom, but I don't really know. I really don't. But when that lady, and she's still in my life, so maybe she is my mom, maybe she's not, but I don't really know. But anyway, going back to as far as I can remember, when she wanted me to come in for dinner, she made me dinner and stuff, so maybe she's my mom, but maybe she's not. But when that lady wanted me to come in for dinner, she yelled out down the street, Teeny. So if you're asking me what name is, Teeny. And they had to call me Teeny. I wouldn't answer anything else. They would literally try Washington 3 times. I'd sit there like, oh, I must be talking to somebody else. Teeny, yeah. I signed nothing in there. So when I got into remand, so this is not like I'd done nights in jail, so it's like more like at the lockup police station. But this is like remand, you're pending trial. So I'm in there with people on murder charges and drug charges and all, like serious people. So anyway, I go in there, and they hand me a card. It's my phone card, and then the guy reads off of a card. So I know he has to get the words exactly right. So he has to read it off the card. So I know, oh, here's a contract. And he goes, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just ignoring it, like, do you understand? I went, oh, there it is. I said, no, I don't understand. So he starts to read again. He said, I know, I heard you. And I comprehended what you said, but I don't understand. What does that mean? I said, that's not my card. Yes, it is. I said, no, it's not. I didn't make it. It's got your picture on it. I said, I don't know. My eyes go this way. I don't even know what I look like. And he's just like sneering, right? So that's what I was doing in court the whole time. And I didn't testify. I made sure the judge understood. If I'm going to talk in here, I'm talking as the representative of the accused. I will not be talking as the accused. Yeah. And I got agreement with the judge. Otherwise, like I said, I'm not talking. So he says, yeah, I understand what you're doing. She says, you need to be careful. I said, I understand that. And so I talked in the third person the whole time. The guy, the man, the accused.
Straw man.
Yeah. It didn't matter, it was the driver. I just said the man or whatever.
Did you ever use that term, the straw man? That would have been
funny. The problem with saying straw man or any of this stuff is you get lumped in the Meads versus Meads thing. And if you've been around a while, you just don't want to get into that. So I steer away from some of these things.
Freeman on the land.
Freeman on the land. Meads versus Meads. It's like, but anyway. Yeah, so I did all that. I didn't sign anything. I ended up getting strep throat in there, like day 2. And I couldn't go to the infirmary because I'd have to sign. So I signed for nothing. I couldn't use I had about $300 in my pocket when I got arrested. I couldn't I didn't put it in an account, so I get chips or deodorant or anything. I had just basic food. They change your uniform twice a week, and you're bedding once a week or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but that's it.
So when your friend put in the bond for you, the promissory note, how did he manage to do that? Like, how did you guys manage to do that? Like,
we were ahead of them at that time. They didn't understand, like clerks and everything, they weren't up to speed. So they took it. He just put it in with the clerk.
But what was it, just a piece of paper saying 300 million?